have multiple updates about this Philadelphia Phillies team, and just about none of them are good. Injuries have begun to take a toll on this Phillies roster. Some players who got off to a hot start are regressing back to their usual self, and some players are shaping up to be exactly who we thought they were. On top of that, the front office remains inactive after failing to do enough at the last two trade deadlines, at the last two offseasons, in particular coming into this season. I want to break down exactly what we do know, as things have been gotten pretty lifeless from the Philadelphia Phillies conversation. They've now lost 4 straight, lost 8 of their last 9, and the actual at-bats, the actual production have looked even worse than that record would indicate. Going to get into it all, including the injury with Bryce Harper, the call-up of Otto Kemp, how the Phillies can get this train back on the tracks, and everything else that we need to discuss. Now, before I do fully dive into things, do want to remind you guys, as always, to make sure you are hitting that subscribe button. At this point in time, only 28% of you guys watching these videos have subscribed to us here at Phillies Digest just yet. We want to keep this channel growing, grow the Phillies Digest family as large as possible, and want as many of you as possible along for the ride. Now, to get into the topic of today, did record this freshly after the Pirates and Phillies game, another 2-1 loss in which, again, lifeless is the number one word I would use to describe this Phillies team. But the big picture conversation, probably the most telling issue, was the news that broke earlier today regarding Bryce Harper. And to dive into exactly what that is he has been placed on the injured list here, and a pretty damning quote from Harper himself. He was asked about the wrist injury in particular, this coming from NBC's Corey Seidman, that said, Bryce Harper said he felt the wrist pain with every swing, got to a point where he didn't think it made sense to keep playing through, didn't want it to cause further injury. Thinks getting hit in the elbow didn't help, hopes rest and treatment knocks it out. Now, this wrist injury has been something that has been bothering him for quite some time, dating back to last season. And we know Harper at this stage that he is a guy that's going to play through injury as much as he physically can take. But it is clear from the production that we've seen from him in recent weeks that this is impacting him. This should not be a massive surprise that he has been dealing with something. There have been those random games where he seemingly has just missed, which has been a bit of a surprise, and ultimately things are starting to add up. Now, the concern here is there isn't an exact injury that has been identified here. There is not this, he sprained his wrist, we take these couple days off, and he'll be back to himself. This feels like something that is going to linger, and that is a huge problem from the Phillies' perspective. Everything is built around Bryce Harper, and it becomes even more abundantly clear when he is not on the field. And to dive into the supporting cast, we got to get into the production. For starters, I just want to acknowledge some of the recent trends, and mind you, these numbers are from before today's Phillies and Pirates game, in which they had a grand total of 4 hits here. In recent games that we've seen, Bryson Stott, 3 for his last 30 at the plate. Kyle Schwarber, 3 for his last 21, although he did hit a home run today. JT Realmuto, 5 for his last 35. Edmundo Sosa, 2 for his last 30. Weston Wilson, 1 for his last 18. Johan Rojas, 2 for his last 17. None of this is good enough here. Now, what it feels to me, and I'm seeing criticism going across the board, is it feels like Rob Thomson is playing a little bit of a game of, let me cover up this hole, which only exposes this hole. Let me move this guy, which only reveals this weakness even further. And the most glaring option in all of this, I feel, is in the outfield here. We know the center field story. We've done this Johan Rojas and Brandon Marsh dance for 3 years now, that we know exactly their strengths and weaknesses. Marsh in particular has taken a step back this year. Johan Rojas, we know exactly who he is. He will make these unreal plays, such as that fly ball that he tracked down, ran 110 feet to get in center field. An incredible play there. But we also know what he brings to the table at the plate, and the answer to that is not enough. That hole gets compounded when you're not getting production from left field, and that is being fully put on display with the Max Kepler situation. To dive into what these stats look like in comparison across the major leagues, that in center field this season, this collectively, both Rojas and Marsh as well as Kepler gotten a couple opportunities out there, the collective position on this Phillies team. Batting average ranks 24th in the league, 221. OBP, 21st in the league, 295. Slugging percentage, 28th in the league at 303. 598 OPS, which ranks 27th, and a 0.0 F4, that is 25th. Now, the left field position, and this being primarily Max Kepler here, almost exclusively. There have been some other Brandon Marsh chances and things like that, but Max Kepler is the story here. A 206 batting average, that ranks 26th in the MLB. A 310 OBP, that ranks 20th in the majors. A 368 slugging percentage, that is 22nd. A 678 OPS, which is 21st, and a negative 0.1 F4, 24th in the MLB. None of this stuff is good enough here. And if this team wants to legitimately look at itself as a contender, which is how it's constructed, which is how this team is supposed to be, we are only a few weeks away, or a few weeks removed from this team holding the best record in baseball. You can't seriously look at those two gaping holes and believe in that. And that only gets compounded by the other issues. Bryson Stott, we have to have a legitimate conversation about him pretty soon. I know Luke Arcaney on this channel kind of dove into things about the shakeup at the leadoff spot. Ultimately, Rob Thomson did make a bit of a change, throwing Trey Turner back in that mix today. But the reality is, Bryson Stott's either going to hit or he's not. And right now, he certainly is not. This sort of portrayal or projection that I think Phillies fans had, that he could just be this next Chase Utley and hold the position down at second base for the next decade, 15 years, is great in theory, but it's not in actuality if Bryson Stott doesn't continue to take those next steps. And if we want to be honest about this, that Bryson Stott has sort of plateaued dating back to past last season. Let's not forget that when it was, all these kids growing up, the Brandon Marsh, the Alec Bohm, the Bryson Stott really hasn't been on the same projection and same developmental path that he kind of has been who he has been. That he's exactly the player that he kind of has been since he broke into the majors, and that is beginning to be a concern. Now, Trey Turner, to his credit, is hitting the ball fairly well right now. I still am very much in the camp of, if you want to make a shakeup, if you want to try something, if you flip-flop Bryson Stott and Trey Turner in the field here, that I do think Bryson Stott would provide more value to this Phillies team if you're getting more from him from the glove perspective. But we really shouldn't be bogged down in the glove perspective conversations right now. This team simply isn't hitting, and that's the root of these issues. Now, one thing that I've been pretty clear on and really feel strongly about is there's got to be some new blood. There's got to be a shakeup, whether that is a trade, whether that is a call-up, and finally a bit of that call was answered today. With the Bryce Harper injury here, that we did get this update that Otto Kemp finally did get his opportunity at the major league level. Now, he's been absolutely tearing it up in the minor leagues. A really cool story, and to lay out his stats here, that playing third base, which is where he started today, can play a little bit of outfield as well. That Otto Kemp is batting .313 with 14 homers and 55 RBIs at Lehigh Valley. He was called up, got his opportunity today, did go 0 for 3 with 2 strikeouts there, and honestly chased some pretty bad ones. I'm not going to, rip the kid for his MLB debut, where I'm sure the nerves were all over the place and the whole team sucked. It was not just an Otto Kemp issue, but that is the kind of push that I need to see. Justin Crawford, where you at, man? Let's get him up to the majors. Let's give him a chance. I know who Johan Rojas is. I know who Brandon Marsh is. I don't know who Justin Crawford is just yet, or what he can be as a Major League Baseball player. I think that needs to be sort of the next conversations. But what I think the unfortunate reality is, and this Bryce Harper injury is going to be very much tied to this conversation, is these next few weeks may very well decide if this team is worth going all in at the trade deadline for. They're a good baseball team. They're a fine baseball team. But can any of us look each other in the eyes right now and believe that if we get to a postseason setting, that this team can take down the Mets and the Dodgers and all these teams that are built to be legitimate contenders? It's not looking like that right now. And sort of the knock on this Phillies team has been that they just beat up on bad teams. They're not even doing that right now. They've lost 2 in a row to the Pirates here. Lifeless losses once again. Last night's game, getting walked off. It's just bad. And there isn't, I guess, a calling card that I can kind of look to as the saving grace. In theory, that has been the pitching staff. That has been what we've been most optimistic at. But even looking at the staff as a whole, Aaron Nola, there's some legitimate concerns. He was bad to start this year and is still out with injury. Zack Wheeler, we know who he is. Jesus Luzardo, I do think there's a real world where he hit a wall, that he's already pitched more innings this season than he did all of last year. Injuries have been a concern to him, and I don't know if he's tipping pitches, I don't know if there's an injury involved, but there's very clearly something wrong with the Luzardo versus what we saw at the beginning of the season, what we're currently seeing. Christopher Sanchez hasn't quite been what he's been last year. I'm not worried about Sanchez. He's certainly not at the top of my concerns from a pitching staff perspective, but he hasn't exactly taken those next steps or replicated his all-star season that he did have last year. And the bullpen, we don't even have to get too deep into that. There aren't the arms that we should believe in. There is not the quality of talent that needs to be. When you look from top to bottom on this Phillies team, there are far too many holes than a team that is trying to view itself as a legitimate contender. I'm not fully panicking. Bryce Harper will get healthy. That is not he better get healthy. I would like a positive update there. I guess I am sort of panicking the more I kind of think about this and talk through it here. It's a frustrating spot for the Phillies in the season. This certainly feels like the low point, and there better be a turning point from inside the locker room conversation. There's got to be positive strides taken moving forward. It did feel like a plate approach conversation. One thing that I think has been clear this season is that they did take more conscious efforts at having better at-bats, working counts. That was out the window today. If there were not for that injury to the Pirates pitcher, he very well could have cruised through 9 innings. That they were swinging at the first pitch, every single batter up there. Nick Castellanos, back in bad habits. Alec Bohm, cranking away at the first pitch he sees. it just feels like everything that could go wrong kind of is, and they need to dig themselves out of this rut. So it is not ideal, the version of this Phillies team that we are currently seeing. There do need to be some significant changes, and I just kind of think there are too many major holes that they are trying desperately to cover up. The trade deadline is coming. They will get healthier. They need to find a way and really get this train back on the tracks, figure out what are the true positives that we can lean on moving forward, what are the key pieces, but I think we have enough of a sample size to identify guys like Max Kepler are not the answer. The center field that we kind of knew already was not the answer cannot be entering into this second half stretch and potential postseason run if this team wants to be serious. The bullpen, Jordan Romano just can't be the closer or the high leverage guy the way it's looked at. Jose Alvarado, we know the suspension deal. There's a lot of holes to be filled and not a lot of time to do it. And this is now where I swing it to Dave Dombrowski, who frankly has underwhelmed at the trade deadline since he's been in Philadelphia. The reputation of this guy is he is a gunslinger. He is a guy that's going to make moves, seal deals, make trades, shake up rosters, empty the farm system, and none of that has become true. That he's got a very good baseball team, a team that has been on the brink of winning a World Series while he's been running this, but he has not made the needle-moving additions that a team requires, and frankly, this team straight up needs right now. So it is time to do some real reflection on this Phillies team, from inside the locker room, from the front office specifically, and it is time to act on things. I'm beginning to panic about this Phillies team, and there does need to be a turnaround in the semi-near future. We will see how things shake out from here, but do want to hear from you guys in the comments. It is a safe space down below. Air out your thoughts, air out your grievances. Let me know what is bothering you guys the most, and we will continue plugging through this Phillies season together. So one more time, do want to remind you guys, as always, to make sure you are hitting that subscribe button. Appreciate each and every one of you guys that tune into these videos here. At this point in time, 72% of you guys watching these videos have not subscribed just yet. Appreciate you guys tuning in as always, and I'll be back talking to you next time right here on Phillies Digest. Peace.